folks, and welcome to the Snowy's Camping Show. Today we've got a listener question for you, which is very exciting because not too long ago you refilled the pot and I haven't seen any of these questions, so the roles are a little bit reversed now. But before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to your podcast, and also jump onto our Facebook group, Snowy's Camping Banter, if you're not there already, and join in the conversation and chuck in some questions for us if that's your vibe.
Yeah, short, sharp questions that you want answered in quick episodes.
Yeah. So
let's mention, I've got this flavour in my mouth. I had some Doritos before I came in here. They're coffee flavoured Doritos.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait till you guys hear about these Doritos.
And they're actually pretty good. So when you see coffee Doritos on the shelf.
Cannot stand them.
Really?
Hate them.
I like them. They got this weird sweet and salty thing about them.
That's what I don't like about them.
I don't want to like them because I like coffee. And
I could tell for every single time you've gone over to the chip bench that you don't want to like them.
This battle in my head of like, you don't like these, get your hand out of the bag and and then
espresso. One time we did an episode on coffee and I was rather, not brutally, but a few people made a few comments about how I say espresso instead of espresso. So they are espresso Doritos. Weird. I've had one. You first put it in your mouth and that initial, when like you have a smell taste, it's like before your taste buds really hit it, it's gone up through sinuses and you can taste it because of how it smells. It smells like a freshly brewed, good quality coffee. Which
it shouldn't, right? Because
it shouldn't.
A pack of Doritos.
But that's what it smells and tastes like. And that's what you have in your mouth. That real sort of sweet, awesome coffee smell flavor. And then your mouth closes around it and you're like, salty cheese, what? And then it sort of turns into this weird.
It's got a sweetness about it.
Cinnamony type. I don't know.
It tastes like coffee on a corn chip with a bit of sugar. And that doesn't sound good, but then you eat it and it tastes good. Our purchasing guy, Jules, he loves it. He got a container and he filled a container and took it back to his desk.
And Tara in customer support, she smashed them on Monday. Yeah. She was like, I love them.
Jake bought them. He bought a pack a few days ago or something.
And he come in again with a new one.
So here's another one we can try. And it's nearly gone. I hope there's some left after we finished here. So let's get this episode done and dusted.
I've got the question here.
Get me another Dorito coffee chip. Well done, Doritos. What have we got?
Look, you haven't convinced me this time. Right, let's move on. Kelly from Facebook discussion, how to store a self-inflating mat.
So Kelly,
nice, simple, short, sharp, shiny, simple one.
So she didn't specifically send this in as a question to talk about, but it was on the Facebook group she asked everyone, how do you store your self-inflating mat?
You got yourself a cooler.
Well, it's you got yourself a cooler. We'll send you a stubby cooler and a bumper sticker. You didn't even know it was on its way. So
surprise, Kelly.
But I thought it's a good discussion topic because I reckon this is something that comes up almost every week. You were in customer service. You probably get it every week for the entirety that I've worked in the outdoor industry. So over a decade because the general rule is don't store it compressed.
Yes, but I think that rule has originally been around since self-inflating mats first came out, when they weren't bonded in any way, shape or form. So they were the classic four-wheel drive mats. They got PVC on one side, sort of a velour on the top of the other, and inside was foam, and they had these huge big plugs on the end, and they weren't like, dual way valves or whatever. They're just these big open holes, right? In that particular instance, it was literally just this dense slab of foam that had a sleeve over the top of it, right? Like a case, just like a pillowcase.
Yep.
So then if you stored them rolled up over a long period of time, those foam cells compressed, and sometimes they went, you know what foam goes like after a really long time, right? It goes a bit weird and crusty. And so then when you opened it back up again, it just stayed compressed, right? Whereas now we have something called bonded mats, which is where the material on the outside is glued, or it has some form of adhesive that bonds the internal slab of foam to the external material, right? And it's on the top and the bottom. So then every time you open the mat, the material attached to the foam essentially helps to expand, pulls it out, and pulls it open, keeps the foam shape realistically over time, right?
Yep. I'd say the general rule is it's best to store it uncompressed if you can. Probably less so as what you said, that it's going to necessarily damage the foam, but more for speed of setup, because the self-inflating element of it doesn't have much effect if you've stored it compressed. You're going to unroll it and it's going to have that memory. It's going to take a long time to expand. So you need to kind of put that air in to get that bonded fabric to kind of pull the foam apart.
Yeah.
If you've stored it uncompressed and not used it for years and years and years, it might become an issue. But if you're storing it compressed and using it regularly, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Ideally, store it uncompressed.
Yeah.
Downside of that is a 10 centimetre mat uncompressed takes up a hell of a lot of space.
Not everyone has that.
And not everyone has that. So if you can tuck it under a bed or on top of a cupboard or something like that, then that's great if you've got the space. My recommendation is to store it loosely compressed. So I have one that I store inside my swag. And when I store the swag, I don't roll it as tight as when I would be traveling with it. So the mat's probably 50% compressed inside there.
That makes sense.
And it puffs up reasonably quickly when I get to camp, and I use a pump to pump it up, and I understand that it's been stored slightly compressed, so it's not going to puff out all the way really quickly.
Yeah.
The mats we've got in the shop here, for example, if we compress them and then pull the valve out straight away, they puff up really quickly.
Because they're stored open all the time.
The foam's memory is to want to be expanded all the time. But I don't think, and I've not seen any real issues with someone saying, I've stored this compressed for a year and now it doesn't work.
Yeah, I haven't seen any issues really with that either, except for, like you say, that sort of initial like that big puff up at first. I feel like we often will, very sad to say, but if I haven't been camping for a few months or used my self-inflating mats for a few months, might pull them out one night when we're doing a movie night and just inflate them in the lounge room and just lay on them and, give them a bit of a run, or we get them out every time we have kids sleeping over or something. So we try every probably 2 months, I would say 2 to 3 months, or every time we remember to pull them out, because it does help just from that best practice, right? Best practice, well caring for your mat, really good caring for your foam to do that. But no issues with storing it rolled up.
Yeah.
I do have one mat now that I think is, I think I've talked about it in recent episodes around self-inflating mats. I reckon it's about 8 years old. And I do have to pump it up pretty much every single time now. But that's just because it's old, but it's not, I don't have any leaks. It's still amazingly comfortable. It's just lost its puffiness realistically.
Yeah.
Over that amount of time. So I think that just the lifespan of your mat and its ability for the foam cells to open up and expand will largely be determined by how often it's compressed and how long it's compressed for, probably.
So I'd say best case scenario, I've got other thinner mats too, by the way, that I fold in thirds or quarters, and I just store them vertically up in the top of my cupboard.
Yep.
But I would say the best way is to try and store it loosely compressed.
Yep.
I think
best way is open, but second best way is loose compressed.
Second's loosely, yeah. So don't fold it up really tight. Maybe not in the compression bag that it comes in. Maybe find a pillowcase or something to put it in that's kind of going to contain it.
Yeah.
That also has a benefit too when you say just get it out and just air it out. And the same thing for tents and a lot of outdoor gear. It's good just to get it out, unpack it, wave it around a bit, make sure there's no moisture and stuff in there, and then repack it, because it sits still. And sometimes I know some of the siliconized fabrics used to go sticky over time if they were stored and not used. So it is good just to air it out or store it in a way that it's loosely compressed so you can get a bit of air around it.
Yeah.
And it sort of breathes a little bit. So that would be my recommendation. But if you're in an apartment and you have no space, then don't panic.
Don't stress about it.
Maybe just pull it out. Try and use it as much as you can. Pull it out a little bit and just accept that it's not going to puff up quite as quickly when you pull that valve out. You're going to have to help it with one of the you can buy hand pumps now, or those inflation sacks that pump into the valve and just.
I just got a little tiny flex towel
or a battery operated pump. Yeah,
nice one,
easy one.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks for the question, Kelly. We will see you next time for another episode of the Stoney's Camping Show.
That was a real nice, quick, short, sharp, shiny one.
It was. I don't think we haven't reached 10 minutes.
Not quite 10 minutes.
Nice work.
Nice work.
Shortest episode ever. See you next time.
Catch you later, folks.